Pulsar Studio.
Video games are the youngest artistic medium, and since their emergence, they have managed to tell great stories and create unforgettable experiences using all kinds of creative resources. This is Checkpoint, and today we are going to discover an example of how they do it. Video games are a very effective means of telling stories, and due to their interactive nature, they provide new and diverse ways of doing it. One of the most interesting creative challenges faced by the creators in the medium is to find the balance between the narrative and the gameplay, trying to prioritize the most important element of the vision, but avoiding falling into turning the work into one extreme and having it empty in the other. The ways that developers have devised to combine narrative resources with playful and interactive ones are always fascinating, and those mechanics or elements that manage to do so are almost always the most memorable ones of the experience. It is not very common to use secondary characters as a tool to create gameplay and enrich the experience using their own construction to achieve it, reaching a genuine conjunction between narrative and gameplay. Fire Emblem, one of the main franchises in the Japanese RPG and turn-based combat genre, is one of the few in the industry that does so, taking advantage of its own origin in Eastern culture, which focuses a lot on the importance of the group and the junction, what the game uses to generate and develop the story arc. Fire Emblem Three Houses is the last installment in the franchise and perhaps the most adapted to the Western public, taking a unique setting and structure in the saga, but also managing to be the best accomplished work in terms of mechanics and secondary character systems and its development. In most of the Fire Emblem games, the secondary characters join the player and the story from the first moments, but these are preset and are part of the cast of characters even if the player does not wish to. It is common in the series for players to choose the favorite supporting characters first based on the aesthetic design and combat skills, and then based on interacting with them and learning about their personalities through optional dialogue. Fire Emblem Three Houses approaches the secondary characters differently from other titles. The secondary characters are chosen as a group, not as individuals, and the choice is based on the new setting and plot, taking the role of mentor and not just a battle commander. The group of characters will accompany the hero or heroine throughout the adventure. Group members generate the first impression of stereotypical personalities that can create sympathy or rejection in the player immediately. But each secondary character has a level of writing and depth worthy of a great narrative work, but as expected, this depth is discovered little by little as the story progresses, and being a video game, this discovery also goes hand in hand with the gameplay. The player will learn a little more about the personality of each character from interacting with them by exploring the monastery and doing activities with them, as well as doing it through cutscenes and scripted dialogues before and after each mission. But that's just the surface. The way developers decided to exploit the depth and development of those characters and connect it with the gameplay is through the combat mechanics. Every time two characters enter a battle while in adjacent spaces or in the same area, or perform actions that affect other characters, they receive a benefit in the same combat and at the same time increase their relationship level, being a double positive effect for the player. As the level of relationship between characters increases, dialogue scenes between those characters are unlocked in which the layers of depth of each one is revealed. The characters tell fragments of their past, their origins and family, or events that mark them. The values and beliefs by which they are governed and the things that inspire them, what they are passionate about and what disappoints them, their sense of good and evil and right and wrong, the dilemmas that they live thanks to the chains created by the customs and inheritances that conflict with what their heart desires, the internal conflict that they live by making decisions that benefit one cause but at the same time affect another that also matters to them. In Three Houses, no character is black or white, and shows that the human is a very complex being with many layers forged by endless variables, and this is achieved in a very simple but effective, impressive way. But the most brilliant thing is the idea of using this as a connector between narrative and the gameplay. A character that first impression was shown as an arrogant or unbearable one, little by little shows a more sensitive side, which it is easier to empathize with, when the player begins to understand why he has forged that personality and see the potential for growth and change in him. The mechanics are triggered from the player's choice, but the dialogues occur between the secondary characters themselves without the need to involve the protagonist. Thus, the development of the characters can be appreciated from a personal perspective without having to change roles or break the illusion. Although some characters will have less opportunity to go through this mechanic because, as they are not preferred by the player, they will not be used in combat, the game also includes missions and scripted chapters in which certain characters are not available or all units are required, giving the possibility of playing with everyone. In this way, even the most hated character demonstrates a depth, past, and highly human and identifiable motives which can change the first impression and even become a favorite of the player, drastically increasing the experience and interaction with the story and the gameplay. And this closes in a complete system because the whole game progresses through missions in combat that, being a role-playing game, require the development of skills and increasing levels, encouraging these links to continue to be reinforced, making the characters stronger, because they are also battle units, and at the same time, the curiosity to know more and more about each one increases. The system ends up being empowered by the permanent death mechanic, emblematic in the franchise and which consists in that if a character is defeated in battle, he or she dies and disappears from the game for the rest of that save file. Losing a character you know and have become fond of is much more painful than one you don't care about, which makes each mission and combat take on a different nature and the player really feels like a war commander making difficult and heartbreaking decisions and bearing unimaginable situations. Although, in the latest installments of the franchise, this mechanic is optional for accessibility reasons, it is undoubtedly a very important element that gives a higher level to the experience. As if it was not enough, the player is not limited to staying with a group of characters that she chose at the beginning of the game, but she has the opportunity to interact with other characters and increase their relationship level to recruit them. It is impossible to recruit everyone in a single playthrough, but the more each character is known, the more curiosity and intrigue is created by knowing all the characters, also contributing to replayability. While this is only possible to achieve through a great job of writing, it also shows that the resources and options for bringing together narrative and gameplay are vast and game creators must be open to all possibilities. There are no elements that are mutually exclusive, and finding a way to put two that seem opposite together is sure to create the most interesting and memorable experience in the game. Video games have given us great narrative titles and unforgettable stories, but without a doubt, managing to combine narrative with interactivity or mechanics is a great contribution that they have left us in the world of storytelling. This is why it's worth to learn and be inspired by the way Fire Emblem Three Houses uses secondary character development. And to you, what innovative ways of developing supporting characters have you seen? What other mechanics do you know that make storytelling and gameplay progress equally? Leave it in the comments below. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Checkpoint. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this to keep discovering the art in making and designing video games. See you next time!